Good evening, दोस्तों. I welcome you all on this channel, IAS with Swapnil. So let's begin with today's session. Look at the first question. With reference to Koleru Lake, consider the following statements. The first statement says, it is one of the largest freshwater lakes in India and is located in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Absolutely correct. Second statement says, it is situated in the interdeltaic plain of Krishna and Godavari rivers near the city of Eluru and acts as a natural flood balancing reservoir for these rivers. Again, correct. The third statement says Koleru Lake is a deep freshwater lake. Indeed, it is a freshwater lake, but it is not an example of a deep freshwater lake. It is a shallow water lake. So third statement is incorrect here. Question is, which of these statements given above is oblique are correct? So correct answer would be A for Ahmedabad, 1 and 2, right? So look at the explanation part. So recently an article was published in the Hindu, and it was because this lake is under threat. Okay, this lake is being contaminated by like various pollutants. ये lake जो है वो news में थी multiple reasons की वजह से. Now let's move on to the next question. Now look at the question number 2. With reference to the shipbuilding financial assistance scheme, consider the following statements. The first statement says, the scheme aims to strengthen India's domestic shipbuilding capacity and enhance global competitiveness. Absolutely correct. Recently, the Ministry of Shipping has announced two important schemes. The first one is the Shipbuilding Financial Assistance Scheme, and the second one is the Shipbuilding Development Scheme. दोनों स्कीम्स को मिलाकर के मोर देन 44,000 करोड़ रुपीस एलोकेट किए गए हैं. कितना? मोर देन 44,000 करोड़ रुपीस. अकेले शिप बिल्डिंग फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंस स्कीम्स में स्कीम के अंदर लगभग 24,000 crore rupees allocate किए गए. So the first statement is absolutely correct. And do remember that's the part of the Make in India scheme. Second statement says it provides graded financial assistance ranging from 15 to 25% per vessel, depending on the vessel category. Again, correct. The third statement says the scheme is implemented by the Ministry of Heavy Industries as the nodal ministry. No, it is implemented by the Ministry of Shipping. Right? So which of these statements given above are correct? Correct answer would be A for Ahmedabad, 1 and 2. Look at the explanation part. So why we picked up this question? Because recently government notified guidelines for shipbuilding assistance and development scheme with 44,700 crore rupees outlay to boost India's shipbuilding capacity. Clear? तो यहाँ देख सकते हैं आप अकेले इस स्कीम की बात करें लाइक शिप बिल्डिंग फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंस स्कीम की तो इसके लिए 24,736 crore rupees have been allocated. Now let's move on to the next question. With reference to the Quality Council of India, consider the following statements. The first statement says it is a non-profit autonomous organization registered under the Societies Registration Act of 1860. Absolutely correct. The second statement says it was set up jointly by the Government of India and the leading industry associations like SOCHM, CII, and FICCI. Again, correct. The third statement says it functions under the administrative control of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. No, that's not correct. It functions under the administrative control of the Ministry of Commerce and particularly under the DPIIT department. Clear? So the question is, which of these statements given above are correct? Correct answer would be 1 and 2. So A for Ahmedabad would be the correct answer, right? Now let's move on to the explanation part. So you can see here, the Quality Council of India announces next generation quality reforms to strengthen India's quality ecosystem. तो ये reason है न्यूज में होने का, इसलिए हमने इसको पिक किया. Now let's move on to the next question. So question number 4, with reference to the index of industrial production in India, consider the following statements. The first statement says IIP is compiled and released by the Central Statistical Office under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Absolutely correct. The second statement says manufacturing has the highest weightage in the IIP, followed by the mining and electricity. Again, correct. So manufacturing has the highest weightage. Third statement says current base year of the IIP reflects India's industrial structure as of 2016-2017. No, that's not correct. That is 2011-2012, not 2016-2017. So third statement is incorrect here. The fourth statement says the IIP measures changes in the value of industrial output rather than volume. It is absolutely incorrect. Just opposite statement लिखा हुआ है. It focuses upon the volume, not the value. So fourth statement is also incorrect. Question is, which of these statements given above are correct? Correct answer would be A for Ahmedabad, 1 and 2. right? Now let's move on to the explanation part and why we picked up this question. So recently the IIP index was published, and what it says that India's industrial production hits 2-year high with 6.7% growth rate in November 2025, right? So this was the news. Now let's move on to the next question. Question number 5. With reference to the electoral trust, consider the following statements. The first statement says, under section 17CA of the Income Tax Act 1961, any citizen of India or a company registered in India can donate to an electoral trust. Absolutely correct. Second statement says, the electoral trust are required to report to the Election Commission of India the contributions received from the individuals and companies and the donations made to the political parties every year. Absolutely correct. The third statement says electoral trust must apply for the renewal every 5 financial years. No, that's not correct. The fourth statement says electoral trust must donate 25% of the contributions received in a financial year to the political parties registered under the RPA Act of 1951. This is also incorrect. Why? Because there's a rule of 5 and 95. So, as per the law, the electoral trust must set aside 5% of the total contributions for the administrative expenses. तो 5% किसके लिए रिजर्व है? For the administrative expenses, and the rest of the funds means 95% should be donated to the political parties registered under the RP Act of 1951. So statement number 3 and 4 both are incorrect here. The question is how many of these statements given above are correct? क्वांटम पूछा हुआ है, टोटल कितने स्टेटमेंट्स करेक्ट हैं? तो करेक्ट आंसर होगा ओनली 2, मींस बी फॉर बॉम्बे शुड बी द करेक्ट आंसर, राइट? अब बेसिकली ये टॉपिक बेहद इंपॉर्टेंस रखता है। इस टॉपिक का सीधा कनेक्शन पॉलिटिकल फंडिंग के साथ में है। आपको याद होगा एक इंपॉर्टेंट केस दैट इज एडीआर, Association for Democratic Reforms versus Union of India case 2024. In this case, Supreme Court ruled the electoral bond scheme is unconstitutional, right? उसके बाद से इस स्कीम का इंपॉर्टेंस बढ़ गया है क्योंकि ये उसके कंपैरिजन में काफी ज्यादा ट्रांसपेरेंट स्कीम है। एंड दिस स्कीम, द इलेक्टोरल ट्रस्ट स्कीम, इट वाज अनाउंस्ड बाय द गवर्नमेंट इन 2013, राइट? नाउ लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द एक्सप्लेनेशन पार्ट। आप देख सकते हैं अभी यहाँ पे रिसेंटली 24-25 का डोनेशंस यहाँ पे मौजूद है। सबसे ज्यादा डोनेशंस किस फंड को मिले हैं? प्रूडेंट इलेक्टोरल ट्रस्ट। प्रेजेंट में टोटल 15 इलेक्टोरल ट्रस्ट मौजूद हैं, total 15. So a total of 15 electoral trusts have been registered with the Election Commission of India, right? And the largest one is the Prudent Electoral Trust. सबसे ज्यादा डोनेशंस किसको मिले हैं? भारतीय जनता पार्टी को, फॉलोड बाय कांग्रेस। क्लियर? लेकिन कांग्रेस के जो फंड्स हैं वो काफी कम हुए, ड्रॉप देखा गया है, और यहाँ पे एक जबरदस्त सर्ज देखा गया है बीजेपी के पॉलिटिकल डोनेशंस में, राइट? सो यू कैन सी हियर कुछ और एडिशनल यहाँ पे इनपुट है वो आप देख सकते हैं। सो यू कैन सी हियर द मेजर रेसिपिएंट्स। द रूलिंग पार्टी एट द सेंटर बीजेपी वाज द लार्जेस्ट बेनिफिशियरी, फॉलोड बाय द कांग्रेस, भारत राष्ट्र समिति एंड वाईएसआर कांग्रेस। स्टेटस ऑफ इलेक्टोरल ट्रस्ट की बात करें, विद मोर देन 15 इलेक्टोरल ट्रस्ट रिकॉग्नाइज्ड बाय द इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया, ओनली 5 ट्रस्ट इंक्लूडिंग द पीईटी received donations during this period, right? So this scheme was launched way back in 2013. Now let's move on to the next question. So question number 6. With reference to the India-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement, consider the following statements. The first statement says, New Zealand will levy zero customs duty on all Indian exports. Absolutely correct. Second statement says, India will reduce tariffs on 95% of imports from New Zealand, with a majority becoming duty-free immediately. Again, correct. The third statement says, India has agreed to provide market access to New Zealand's dairy products under the FTA. No, that's not correct. Why? Had it been allowed, it would have impacted the dairy sector of the country. So the third statement is absolutely incorrect. Question is, which of these statements given above are incorrect? तो यहाँ पे incorrect पूछा हुआ है. So only third, means C for Calcutta, would be the correct answer. Right? Now look at the explanation part. Dairy and agriculture are explicitly excluded to protect Indian farmers and the Indian dairy industry. Right? So this was the news recently, and that's why we picked up this question. Now let's move on to the next question. Question number 7. With reference to the anti-defection law in India, consider the following statements. UPSC 2022 prelims का question है. Look at the question. The first statement says the law specifies that a nominated legislator cannot join any political party within 6 months. Just opposite लिखा हुआ है. So the constitution says that if a nominated member joins a political party within 6 months from the date of nomination, then the entire defection law will not attract. तो यहाँ डिफेक्शन के कोई चार्जेस, एंटी डिफेक्शन के कोई चार्जेस यहाँ पे नहीं लगेंगे, right? So this statement is absolutely opposite. So this is incorrect. The second statement says the law does not provide any time frame within which the presiding officer has to decide a defection case. This is absolutely correct. So I hope you understood that if a nominated member joins a political party within 6 months from the date of nomination, in that case, he will not have to face the charges under the anti-defection law. तो यहाँ पे एडीएल अट्रैक्ट नहीं होगा, राइट? सो ये जो स्टेटमेंट लिखा हुआ है, दिस इज इनकरेक्ट. अगर 6 महीने के अंदर ज्वाइन कर लेते हैं तो कोई इश्यूज नहीं है. The question is which of these statements given above is oblique are correct? Only second statement is correct. So B for Bombay would be the correct answer, right? Now let's move on to the explanation part. और ये जो second statement है, this is a very important one. Why? Because this gap has been repeatedly flagged by the Supreme Court as enabling delays, right? तो स्पीकर या चेयरपर्सन के पास में अनड्यू डिलेस का पार यहाँ पे मिला हुआ है. किसी भी इंडेफिनिट टाइम पीरियड तक के ये इस पिटिशन को रोके रख सकते हैं, राइट? नाउ लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. द टर्म लेवेंट often heard in the news roughly corresponds to which of the following regions? Again UPSC 2022 prelims का क्वेश्चन हमने पिक किया है. करेक्ट आंसर इज रीजन along the eastern Mediterranean shores, right? जैसे भी आप प्रेजेंट में देख रहे हैं कि ये रीजन लगातार न्यूज में है बिकॉज ऑफ Israel Palestine conflict, then recently America attacked on Syria. So this region is highly volatile at present, and that's why we picked up this question, right? So look at the explanation part. You can see here the Levant. So this is the Mediterranean Sea, the Eastern Mediterranean है, this is the Western Mediterranean, right? तो Eastern end पे आप देख सकते हैं, this is like here we have Syria, then we have like Jordan, then we have Israel, Lebanon, Palestine, right? And Turkey, sometimes Turkey as well. Now let's move on to the next question. Look at the question number 9. Which of the following species has caused disruptions across the world by clogging up the nuclear plant's cooling system? So nuclear plant का जो cooling system है, that is an integral component of a nuclear reactor which keeps the nuclear reactor and the turbines below a certain temperature. अगर ऐसा नहीं होगा तो क्या होगा? हीट अप हो जाएगा और हीट अप होने की वजह से डिजास्टर होने के चांसेस होंगे, राइट? सो जेलीफिश इज द करेक्ट आंसर. अच्छा, पहली बार नहीं है जब ये जेलीफिश के वजह से, उनके इंक्रीज कॉन्सेंट्रेशन की वजह से किसी न्यूक्लियर पावर प्लांट का जो कूलिंग सिस्टम है वो डैमेज हुआ है. पहले कई बार हो चुका है, लेकिन अभी ये इंसिडेंट्स बढ़ गए हैं और रीजन है द क्लाइमेट चेंज. सो यू कैन सी हियर the spineless foe of nuclear power plant, how the jellyfish disrupts these facilities, right? So since at least 1990s, nuclear power plants across the world have been forced to shut down due to jellyfish getting clogged in their cooling systems, right? So this is not the first time. Now why this is happening, you need to understand. See, global warming की वजह से somewhere जो ऑक्सीजन का कॉन्सेंट्रेशन है ओशन में ये डिक्रीज हो रहा है. अब जेलीफिश जो है वो ये अपने आप को इस तरह के एटमॉस्फेयर में एकोमोडेट करने के लिए ये बनी हुई है. तो जेलीफिशेस जो हैं ये बेसिकली लो ऑक्सीजन कॉन्सेंट्रेशन को भी सर्वाइव कर सकती हैं बेहद इजीली, राइट? नाउ व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. सी, जेलीफिश एक्चुअली कंज्यूम करती हैं जूप्लैंक्टन्स को, राइट? तो जेलीफिश किसको कंज्यूम कर रही है? जूप्लैंक्टन्स को. और जेलीफिश को कौन कंज्यूम कर रहा है? इनको कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं टर्टल्स एंड ट्यूना फिशेस. तो ट्यूना फिश हो गई और टर्टल्स हो गए, ये कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं जेलीफिश को. जेलीफिश कंज्यूम कर रही है जूप्लैंक्टन्स को. तो व्हाट इज हैपनिंग कि ओवरफिशिंग की वजह से समवेयर टर्टल्स और जो फिशेस हैं ट्यूना फिश, इनका नंबर डिक्रीज हो रहा है. अब इनके नंबर के डिक्रीज होने की वजह से किसका नंबर बढ़ जाएगा? जेलीफिश का नंबर बढ़ जाएगा. अब जेलीफिश के कंजप्शन के लिए जूप्लैंक्टन जो है वो अबंडेंस में अवेलेबल है, तो इसकी वजह से इनकी ओवर ग्रोथ हो रही है, राइट? प्लस अभी हमने बात की है कि ऑक्सीजन में, वाटर में जब ऑक्सीजन लेवल कम होता है तो ऐसे सिचुएशन में भी जेलीफिशेस अपने आप को एक्कोमोडेट कर सकती हैं, राइट? सो क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से जो ओशन एसिडिफिकेशन हो रहा है, ऑक्सीजन का कॉन्सेंट्रेशन वाटर में कम हो रहा है, उसके बाद में भी जेली फिशेज जो हैं उनकी पॉपुलेशन बढ़ रही है, राइट, और इसकी वजह से न्यूक्लियर रिएक्टर्स पे इंपैक्ट पड़ रहा है. So I hope you understood this connection. Now let's move on to the next question. So look at the question number 10. The European Parliament approved the European Union's plan to phase out Russian gas imports. Present में जो European Union है, उसका जो total gas import है, total gas import का 12% अभी प्रेजेंट में रशिया से आ रहा है. प्रेजेंट में 2022 के पहले जब यूक्रेन पे अटैक नहीं हुआ था उसके पहले ये नंबर मोर देन 24% था, राइट. तो अब ये हाफ हो चुका है, 12% के आसपास में. सो रिसेंटली यूरोपियन पार्लियामेंट डिसाइडेड टू फेज आउट द रशियन गैस इंपोर्ट्स. Statement number one says the LNG imports by the end of 2025, correct. Pipeline gas by the end of 2026, both are correct. So which of the statements given above is oblique are correct? C for Calcutta means both 1 and 2 will be the correct answer, right? Look at the explanation part. So this was the news recently. European Parliament approves phase out of the Russian gas imports. Right. Now let's move on to the next question. So this is the last question of today's session and this year 2025 with reference to the Karbi Anglong Autonomous Council. Consider the following statements. The statement number one says it enjoys the special protection for the tribal communities under 6th schedule of the Constitution. Absolutely correct. The second statement says it is located in the state of Arunachal Pradesh. No, that's not correct. It is situated in the state of Assam, right? Not Arunachal Pradesh. So second statement number two is incorrect here. Which of these statements given above is oblique are correct? So correct answer would be A for Ahmedabad, only one. So look at the explanation part. Recently भी यहाँ पे violence हुआ है और वायलेंस के बाद इनफैक्ट इंटरनेट सर्विसेज को भी शट डाउन कर दिया गया था. लास्ट वाले सेशन में हमने उसके लीगल फ्रेमवर्क पे क्वेश्चन फ्रेम किया था. यू माइट हैव नोटिस्ड, अगर नहीं किया है तो ध्यान से देख लीजिएगा. Right, so you can see here that army deployed in Assam's violence hit West Karbi Anglong district. The two persons were killed and 45 others, including 38 police personnel, injured as violence rocked the West Karbi Anglong district. Right, so I hope you guys understood. So guys, this was the last session of the year 2025. हम मिलेंगे अपने नेक्स्ट सेशन में नए साल के साथ में. अगर आपके पास में कोई भी अपने recommendations हैं, कोई फीडबैक है तो देना मत भूलिएगा, राइट. एंड प्लीज बी विद अस. सो मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट सेशन में दोस्तों. बाय बाय, टेक केयर, जय हिंद.